like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. We're here at the Hogan Rutherford campaign headquarters.
Yes, you are.
With the one and only Mr. Boyd Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, you have been troubled by this moving backwards theme that has been put onto the media,
right,
as of late. Why are you troubled by this moving backwards? What's your sense of it?
I sincerely believe people of a certain age, including myself, when you send a message saying taking people back and then show a black family moving backwards, and then later the same language taking people back or taking the state backwards, and then show a black child moving backwards. It's a subtle, or maybe a not so subtle, racial statement trying to play to fears that some in the black community still have, like I said, people of a certain age, that you're going to take away civil rights, take away those gains that were made during the 60s and 70s and even the 50s and 40s, and move it back to segregated tables, segregated lunch spaces, denial of jobs based on color, things of that nature. And I see that as an intentional statement, an ugly statement by the Brown Almond campaign in an attempt to scare black folks to get out to vote, to basically say that Larry is something that he's not.
And well, so what is the truth? What is it that people should know?
What people should know is that, well, you could look at me.
I mean, would you be into putting us into slavery, putting black people backwards?
Am I going to put myself out on the cotton plantation? No. or decide that we should be excluded from lunch tables, or put in segregated environments, separate but unequal. I mean, to a certain extent, we may have separate but unequal right now when you see some of the communities that we live in.
And truth is, you've been a fighter for our community, for Maryland, for all of Marylanders, but you've been a fighter for our community as well in your past several years.
Right. Well, I mean, primarily in the business community in terms of minority business. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that, but I've done minority business development. I represented minority businesses in terms of legal practice, but also just in terms of consulting, and then in government, trying to support minority business. What we tried to do, and what Larry and I will do when we get into office, is make the state MBE program a prime contractor program, along with being a subcontractor. But right now, it's a sub-program, and we can talk more about that. But yeah, I see what the Brown campaign did in trying to scare people that say that Larry is something that he is not. Larry was raised in Prince George's County. He lived inside the Beltway. Prince George's is a little different now than what it was, but his neighborhood was mixed. He lived in the same neighborhood with Sugar Ray Leonard. He went to DeMatha High School when you had Adrian Dantley and a number of black basketball players there.
Hogan went to school with A.D.?
Yeah, he was there when he was.
But let's go to this diversity piece. His wife is Korean.
She's first generation. Well,
Korean American.
She's an immigrant, Korean American. Yeah, and her children are first generation Korean American.
So how does he take this moving backwards commercial?
He was.
Is that not an insult?
He was livid
to her as well.
Well, and see, the thing is, part of it was that Larry did not necessarily understand that subtle, what would be to a lot of folks a subtle statement, but to black folks, like I said, of a certain age, my age group and probably a little older and some a little younger, of seeing that tactic as sending a subliminal message that they're going to take away your civil rights. So it wasn't until I started talking to him about it that he became livid with just that whole concept, that they're going to try to play. But this is what the Democratic Party has done for a long time in this state, that they play on, we haven't done anything for you, black folks, but you don't want to go to the other guys because they're going to be worse.
Well, as you're talking,
that's what they do. They do that all the time.
As you're talking, what comes to mind is the project that your team put in place at Coppin State. Coppin, 100 million, you say? In expansion dollars, capital dollars. Coppin State looks like a bona fide institution of higher learning.
Right, which wasn't happening until, the Ehrlich administration came in and said, this is what you're asking for, this is what you need, let's put it forward, let's go forward with it.
Okay.
And some of the initial dollars that went into Morgan's new communications school, I call it new, was Ehrlich administration. So, we believe in treating everybody equally.
Especially the little guy. I mean, I've seen you help the little guy.
Well, we do what we can.
And you just figured that the Democratic Party would be specializing in helping the little guy.
Well, that's their propaganda. And that's where they, in earlier days, that's what they did. But it's become an elitist party. I mean, look who supports them. It's the big Hollywood elites. They still get a lot of support with the union leadership, not necessarily the union worker, because they end up paying dues for the union leaders to go on these extravagant vacations and make these big salaries.
Well, I want you to hold that thought. We have another question. We're going to take a pause. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com.